top here. So to my understanding, your question, the first question is asking if a student has already taken the AP Calculus BC exam, but still needs to take the class officially, should they still register? So again, let me know if I have that question correct in the chat, but I would say practically speaking, no, there is no benefit to taking the exam once more. So it would be best for the student to just opt out of taking it and opt out of the registration. However, there's a complication here. There are many high schools that have strict policies where if the student is taking the class, they should register for the exam. If that's the situation for your student, I would speak to the counseling team at the high school as soon as possible, just to make sure that they're aware that the student has taken the exam already, and if they could opt out of that exam. Okay. Okay. So the second question, could you offer some good suggestions for law and business for an upcoming 10th graders summer program? Are there any winter programs? So, obviously there's a lot of fantastic programs out there. I'm just going to name a couple notable options. So for pre-law, I mentioned that Georgetown Summer Institute and Cornell Summer Institute have really fantastic options that our students have really come to love. If you want a little bit more challenge, Yale's Young Global Scholars is a really great, critical thinking lecture-based program that really dives deep into law discussions, ethics, and so on. As for business, USC and UC Berkeley have always been the tried and true options for a lot of our 9th grade, 10th grade students wanting to get that first foray into business. So that would be my start. But if you do want a bit more of a challenge, UPenn, right? So Ivy caliber here. UPenn's Wharton School, their Global Youth Academy offers some really challenging options for business. Pretty flexible, in fact, in-person and virtual options. So really great flexibility there. Some of those programs are very highly competitive, right? In particular, their leadership program is very highly selective. And that last bit of that question, whether there are winter programs, actually, yeah, there is a notable exception here. UC Berkeley's Business Academy, or BBA as it's called, actually offers year-round summer courses and programs for business. Okay, so if you're interested in that, I would take a look at it. I don't know if they have anything specifically for winter term as you asked, but they do have fall, spring, and summer. Okay. All right. So the next question, if a student has a white father and Asian mother, should they pick between the two? So obviously a very topical question here. Given last year's bombshell with the Supreme Court knocking down race-based admissions and affirmative action, and especially with UC's long being race blind since the mid-90s, I would say that there really is no strategic advantage to either one here. In fact, I would caution you to, I would urge you to even omit this information. On the common application, you can actually just completely avoid inputting this race and ethnicity option there. It's completely optional. And the reason I say that is, we just don't want to call attention to it, right? If colleges could just put blinders on and just completely ignore it, that's all the better. And in fact, we see this already in policy. Even if students are opting to include that information there, many colleges have the option to suppress that information, meaning even though you fill out information, they won't receive it. It won't show up in the final PDF that's being sent to them because they would rather they not call attention to it anyway. Okay. So if I were you, I would just completely omit that race and ethnicity option. Okay. Okay. And so which is more recommended for 10th and 11th graders, prestigious summer school like Yale, Wharton, or a not being school of credits? In actuality, I've really not seen many instances where colleges have a dramatic preference for a more name recognized school over even a community college course. Okay. Especially for a summer course, in the end, it's going to be very straightforward in terms of the learning environment, and they're not going to really provide, look into the rigor of the course and the name recognition as a key factor. And I've seen this with a lot of students where, over the years, students wanting to, try to take advantage of that name recognition, but in practice, I haven't really seen a dramatic difference between students of mine who are taking classes through community college, dual enrollment, or even taking it from lesser known colleges like BYU's online school. So I would not do so if you're looking for any strategic advantage for in doing so. If your child is really just interested in the school, it could show some exposure. So by all means, that's still a consideration, but in terms of admissions, it's really not going to be a dramatic difference. Okay, so your school does not provide AP research and AP comparative government. Where can you take these classes? Do you think they're essential for BA majors? Colleges can't really look to the lack, the presence of or lack thereof of certain APs as a major consideration, because again, at the end of the day, they can't, expect families to have the flexibility or finances to take these classes. If your school doesn't offer it, that's not going to be a slight or disadvantage on the application. Okay. Now, if you really do want to take these classes, just out of self-interest, out of exposure to it, and obviously it is still going to add to the application, but it would certainly not detract from the application if the student doesn't have those classes at their school. If you wanted to take these classes, there are many schools that you could take these classes online. There's a number of online schools from Scout, Apex Learning, to name a few, or even talking to other high schools to register for the class. If it's offered in the summer or online, to look at the virtual school that they offer, or even through self-study. Right? If you were to take a college level equivalent, learn the material and register for the exam, you could still find a way to provide testing for that. Okay, so again, there might be better, there might be more specifics in terms of options for your area, since I can't really speak for that. But generally speaking, again, it's not going to hurt the student if they aren't able to take those classes, right? Okay. Student currently in grade 12 and has 8 AP courses, 7 score 5, 1 with a score of 4. Is it necessary to take the AP capstone class? Really, it's going to depend on the major interest. Research is still a pretty high commodity for college applications these days. But it doesn't, I would say that a lot of our students have jumped into research and internships and other opportunities without the class. So do I think it's necessary? No. Do I think it could be a helpful class for a student who wants to take part in research and add something like this to the rigor of their application? Then yes, I think it's beneficial, because it really is going to give students a foray into how research is being conducted, how to collect data, how to formulate a hypothesis and collect articles and write the actual research paper. So I do think it's a compliment, but I don't necessarily think that this is a standard for students to be competitive. And if you plan to pre-med major in college at 11th grade course, okay, so you'd like to know if choosing AP Statistics or AP Physics 1, which is more important. I would say that, in terms of the impact on the application, either one could be beneficial. This would be more for the student's benefit, to be honest with you. Physics, chemistry, biology, of course, there are going to be classes that are going to be emphasized in college and on the MCAT for the student. I would recommend that they take physics just to get that initial exposure. But in terms of what colleges would prefer, in terms of like admissions, I don't think either one's going to have a dramatic advantage over the other. So more so for like personal benefit, I think physics one would be better for the student to get that earlier exposure for physics